6 years ago, my life completely broke apart in a small apartment in Memphis, a place where I once thought family love would never fade. My name is Meredith Foster, now 25, a woman who learned how to rise again after the hardest fall of her life. Back then, I was just a young dreamer. But everything fell apart the moment my parents decided to throw me out just to make my sister happy, simply because she couldn't stand to see me around. "You make her uncomfortable every day," they said coldly while handing me a suitcase. My sister's words still echo in my mind. "I don't want her here." Those words felt like a knife cutting through everything I believed about family. I left with only a few clothes and a burning will to prove they were wrong for abandoning me. Time went by and everything changed. Today, I live in Portland, Oregon, and own a $7.5 million mansion, the result of years of hard work, sleepless nights, and endless determination. But then, out of nowhere, my parents called. Not to apologize, not to make peace, they wanted something from me. They heard about the mansion, and suddenly I was worth their time again. In every word they spoke, I could still feel my sister's shadow, her jealousy and selfishness still controlling them like before. Now they say they're coming to Portland, hoping to get a share of what I built with my own hands. But what they don't know is that I am no longer the weak girl they once threw away. Before we continue, comment below with the time and place you're watching this from. I truly want to see how far my story has reached. Growing up in Memphis, our family looked close to outsiders. But inside our small apartment, I always lived under my sister's shadow. In my early 20s, I watched her shine. Her clever mind and good looks made everyone love her, from neighbors to teachers. She could do no wrong, while my efforts went unnoticed. I didn't mind at first. I looked up to her, hoping one day we'd be equals. But then everything changed. When my sister, in her mid-20s, rushed into a marriage that ended in less than 5 months, she came back home, her suitcase hitting the floor like a sign of defeat. The air in our home changed. She wasn't the same happy person who had left for her honeymoon. Now, she snapped at me over the smallest things. My dishes in the sink, my laugh during dinner, even the way I walked. "You're always in the way," she'd say sharply. I tried to ignore it, thinking she just needed time to heal. But Tracy, that's what I started calling her after she returned, didn't stop. She would sit with my parents, whispering about how my presence made the house tense. I'd hear her low voice, blaming me for everything. One night at dinner, she pointed at me and said, "Why does she have to be here all the time?" My stomach dropped. I looked to my parents for support, but their silence hurt more than her words. They nodded along, their eyes avoiding mine as if I wasn't even there. That wasn't the only time. Tracy kept at it. She rolled her eyes when I spoke, mocked my ideas, and made fun of me in family talks. Once I suggested a weekend outing to ease the tension, and Tracy scoffed, "Nobody wants your plans." My dad mumbled something about keeping the peace, while my mom pretended not to hear, busying herself with dishes. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Their favoritism was suffocating. My dad proudly dusted Tracy's old high school trophies, while my good college grades went unnoticed. My mom spent hours listening to Tracy talk about her ex-husband, but when I tried to share something from my day, she'd cut me off with, "Not now." I started eating alone in my room, just to stay away from the fights. But Tracy still complained. "She's always sulking," she'd say loudly enough for me to hear. I clenched my fists, wondering why they couldn't see how cruel she was being. I tried to keep peace. I helped with chores, stayed quiet during arguments, and even smiled when Tracy insulted me in front of guests. But nothing worked. The gap between us grew like a crack in the foundation of our home. At night, I lay awake replaying her words, feeling crushed by their coldness. I didn't know then that these moments were leading to something that would change my life forever. In my early 20s, my world flipped upside down. I was working late nights on a tech app idea, a scheduling tool for small businesses that I poured my heart into. One evening, I shared it at dinner, showing my sketches and explaining how it could make bookings and payments easier. My dad nodded slightly, my mom smiled, but Tracy just leaned back with crossed arms and narrowed eyes. I didn't think much of it, assuming she was just in one of her moods. A few days later, I found a post in an online business group. My exact app idea, same features, same layout, being presented as someone else's creation. The poster? Tracy. She had stolen my notes and claimed them as her own, bragging about her new project to strangers online. My blood boiled. That night, I confronted her in the living room, holding my phone with the proof. "This is mine, Tracy," I said, my voice shaking. "You stole it. Stop this now." She didn't even flinch. "You're just jealous," she said with a smirk. "You've always been jealous of me." I stood there in shock, waiting for my mom or dad to say something. They didn't. My mom looked away, fussing with a napkin, while my dad muttered, "Let's not make a scene." Tracy didn't stop there. She kept going, turning every talk into a chance to insult me. "Her presence is dragging us all down," she told my parents one evening, loud enough for me to hear. "I can't stand seeing her face every day. It makes me uncomfortable." I tried to defend myself, telling them how I had worked for months on that app and how it was my dream. But Tracy rolled her eyes. "Nobody cares about your little project," she said. My parents stayed silent, their faces blank as if I hadn't said a word. I felt my chest tighten from the pain of being ignored. Then things got even worse. Tracy started pushing them to make me leave. One night, she cornered my parents in the kitchen, her voice low but sharp. "She's causing too much tension," she said. "If she stays, I can't handle it." I overheard everything from the hallway, my heart pounding. I hoped my parents would defend me and tell her she was wrong. But instead, my mom sighed and said, "We just want peace." My dad nodded, avoiding my eyes when I walked in. I begged them, my voice shaking. "This is my home too. Why are you letting her do this?" Tracy smirked, folding her arms like she had already won. A week later, the final blow came. My dad called me into the living room, his tone cold. "You need to leave," he said, handing me a suitcase. "It's for the best." My mom stood beside him, eyes on the floor. "We can't keep fighting like this," she added. Tracy stood in the corner, watching with a smug smile. They gave me no choice, no discussion, just a few bags for my clothes and told me to be gone by morning. I begged them to think again, asking why they believed her over me, my voice cracking with pain. They didn't answer. The silence was louder than any words. I packed what I could, my hands shaking as I stuffed shirts and notebooks into bags. My app idea, months of work, felt like ashes now, stolen and ruined by Tracy. As I walked out the door, I turned back one last time, hoping to see even a hint of regret in their eyes. But there was none. Betrayal burned inside me, but so did a spark of strength. I wasn't going to let them destroy me. I would show them what I could do, no matter how long it took. With just a backpack, I left Memphis and never looked back. Those first days were a blur of pain and confusion. I ended up at my best friend Heather Gay's apartment, sleeping on her couch with my few things. Heather sat with me through sleepless nights, listening as I poured out my pain about my family's betrayal. "You're stronger than this," she told me softly. "They don't get to decide who you are." Her words were like a lifeline pulling me out of the dark. She helped me pack, plan my next move, and reminded me I wasn't alone. But I knew I couldn't stay there long. Memphis held too many bad memories. A week later, I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, to live with my Uncle Kenneth. He welcomed me like a daughter, opening his home without hesitation. "This is your fresh start," he said, handing me the key to his guest room. His kindness gave me the strength to rebuild. That fall, I joined a community college and started studying computer science with a strong desire to prove myself. My first year was tough, balancing classes, part-time jobs, and the heavy weight of starting over. I spent nights studying code, determined to turn my ideas into something real. Kenneth supported me every step of the way, cooking dinner when I was too tired and reminding me that I had potential. That first year, I gave everything to my studies. I excelled in programming, earning praise from teachers who saw my hard work. I started sketching out a new app, one based on the idea Tracy had stolen, but improved, smarter, and more useful. It was a scheduling platform for freelancers, with tools for tracking payments and client feedback. I worked late at the college library, my laptop glowing with lines of code. By the end of that year, I had a working prototype, rough, but promising. Over the next 4 years, I poured everything into that app. I transferred to a university in Chattanooga and majored in information technology. My days were filled with classes, coding, and pitching my idea to local business owners. I faced rejection after rejection. Investors called my app too small or said I lacked experience. But I didn't stop. I kept improving it, adding features like automatic reminders and secure payments. Kenneth was my biggest supporter, reading my pitch slides and giving me advice. "Keep going," he'd say whenever I doubted myself. Slowly, my hard work started to pay off. In my 3rd year, a small investor took a chance on me, giving me enough money to hire a developer and launch a beta version. People loved it, and soon word spread. By the 5th year, my app was growing fast. Freelancers all across Tennessee were using it, and I expanded it to work for teams too. I graduated with honors, but I didn't stop there. I started a company, investing all my savings into marketing and hiring a small team. We worked out of a tiny office, driven by coffee and dreams. The app's users grew from thousands to tens of thousands. Profits increased, and soon I found a major investor who believed in its future. By the 6th year, my company was thriving. I was finally able to make a big move. I bought a $7.5 million mansion in Portland, Oregon. A sleek, modern home that felt like a dream come true. It was proof of everything I had built from nothing. And news of my success didn't stay quiet for long. My Aunt Cheryl, who had always been kind but kept her distance, heard about my mansion through a friend in Memphis. One evening, she called me, her voice warm with pride. "You did this all by yourself?" she said, amazed. I told her everything, from the painful days sleeping on Heather's couch to the long nights coding in Chattanooga. Cheryl promised she would visit, but I knew she'd also tell my family about it. I didn't mind. Let them know what I had built without them. I had turned my pain into strength, and no one could take that from me. One quiet morning in Portland, my phone rang with a Memphis number. I froze when I saw it was my mom. Her voice sounded unusually sweet, congratulating me on my success. "We heard about your mansion," she said warmly. $7.5 million, that's incredible. I waited, knowing there was more. Then she added, "You know, family tradition means we share everything. That house should be for all of us." My jaw tightened at the word share. After what they'd done to me, I took a deep breath and said, "Mom, I built this on my own. You don't get to claim it now." There was a long silence. Then she muttered something about family unity and hung up. I sat there, her words echoing, bringing back all the old pain from Memphis. The next day, an email from my dad appeared. His tone was cold and formal. "We're coming to Portland," he wrote. "We need to discuss this in person. It's only right." I read it twice, my heart pounding. Discuss. They hadn't spoken to me in years, not since the day they handed me a suitcase and told me to leave. Now they wanted a share of my life because I had made something of myself. The nerve of it made my blood boil. I wanted to ignore the email, to delete it and move on. But part of me needed to face them, to finally say everything they had ignored for so long. Anger burned inside me, but I didn't let it control me. I decided to meet them, not for them, but for me. I needed to close that chapter of my life, to speak the truth they had refused to hear. I wasn't the weak, scared girl they threw away. I had built a company, a home, a future, all without them. Meeting them would be my way of proving that, not just to them but to myself. I called my Uncle Kenneth, who had been my greatest support since Chattanooga. I told him about my mom's call and my dad's email. He listened quietly and then said, "You earned all of this. Don't let them take even an inch." His words steadied me. He reminded me how I started from nothing, how I had fought through long nights and setbacks. "Stand your ground," he told me firmly. "You owe them nothing." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Kenneth's faith in me felt like armor. It gave me the strength I needed. I knew Tracy would come too. She was always the one pulling the strings, the one who had turned my parents against me. Just hearing her name made my anger rise, but it also made me determined. I could already picture her walking into my mansion, eyes scanning the place, looking for something to take, just like she'd stolen my app idea years ago. But this time, I wasn't defenseless. Over the next few days, I prepared myself. I went over what I would say, how they had chosen her over me, how I had survived their betrayal, and how I had built everything in spite of them. I wasn't going to let them twist the past. By the time I finished talking with Kenneth, my mind was clear. This meeting wasn't about forgiveness. It was about standing up for myself and for the life I had created. I didn't know what excuses they would make, but I was ready. They would see the woman I had become, and they would learn they no longer had a place in my world. A week later, a car pulled up in front of my Portland mansion. My dad, my mom, and Tracy stepped out, their faces a mix of fake smiles and arrogance. They walked in like they owned the place. My dad's eyes moved across the high ceilings, my mom clutched her purse tightly, and Tracy followed behind with that same smug look she always had. I stood in the foyer beside Kenneth, my heart beating fast but my confidence strong. They didn't greet me or ask how I was. They went straight to their goal. My mom spoke first, her tone sweet but sharp. "This house is beautiful," she said, looking around. "But you owe us, you know. We raised you, gave you everything. It's only fair we share this." I clenched my fists. Owe them? After all they had done? I shook my head and kept my voice calm. "You gave me nothing but a suitcase and a deadline," I said. "This is mine." My mom's smile faded, but she didn't stop. She started talking about family and fairness, insisting we should all share equally. I had heard enough. I took a step closer and looked straight at Tracy. "Let's talk about what you did," I said clearly. "You stole my app idea, posted it online as your own, and then convinced them to kick me out because I made you uncomfortable." Tracy's face twisted in anger, but I didn't stop. "You manipulated them, turned them against me, and they believed every lie." My dad shifted uneasily, glancing at my mom, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Tracy tried to speak, but I was ready. Before the meeting, Aunt Cheryl had sent me screenshots from that online business group, proof that Tracy had posted my app as her own. The messages also showed her trashing me, calling me lazy and jealous to cover up what she did. I held up my phone, showing my parents the evidence. "Here's the truth," I said, scrolling through the messages. "She lied about me to strangers, and you believed her without question." My mom's face turned pale, and my dad's jaw tightened, but neither of them said a word. The silence that followed was heavier than anything they could have said. Kenneth stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "You have no right to be here," he said, staring directly at my dad. "She built this life without you. It's time for you to leave." His support gave me strength, reminding me I wasn't alone. My dad tried to interrupt, mumbling something about family loyalty, but Kenneth stopped him. "Loyalty?" he said sharply. "You chose Tracy over her. You don't get to come here and demand anything now." Tracy finally spoke, her voice high and defensive. "You're exaggerating," she said, flipping her hair. "I didn't steal anything. You were always dramatic, making things up for attention. I stared at her in disbelief. Even now, with proof in front of her, she still wouldn't admit it. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. "You're not my family anymore," I said, looking at all three of them. "You lost that right when you threw me out. Get out of my house." Tracy's smirk disappeared, and my parents exchanged uneasy glances, but I stood firm and pointed to the door. Days after that confrontation, Cheryl texted me from Memphis. Her message was short but urgent. Tracy was spreading lies again, telling everyone I was selfish for not sharing my money with the family. She was calling me cold and ungrateful, saying I cared more about wealth than blood. My stomach twisted as I read her words. Even after everything, Tracy was still twisting the truth to make herself look like the victim. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt deeply. Cheryl called me that evening, her voice full of doubt. "I heard Tracy's side," she said, "but something doesn't feel right. Tell me what really happened." I took a deep breath, thankful she wanted to hear my truth. I told her everything: how Tracy stole my app idea, posted it online as her own, and convinced my parents to kick me out when I called her out. I explained the years of favoritism, how my parents always took Tracy's side, and how they cut me off without a second thought. Cheryl listened quietly, her sighs showing she was finally understanding. I sent her the screenshots, the same ones from the business group where Tracy had claimed my idea and insulted me. "This isn't just about the house," I told her. "It's about years of lies and manipulation." Cheryl promised to find out the truth. She sounded angry, not at me, but at the family she'd once trusted. I hung up feeling lighter, like I'd finally handed my pain to someone who cared. Cheryl didn't waste time. She sent those screenshots to our whole extended family, along with a message explaining everything: how Tracy had lied, stolen from me, and how my parents had supported her. She even included Tracy's old posts where she called me lazy and jealous to justify her theft. The proof was undeniable. Relatives who once believed Tracy began reaching out to Cheryl, shocked and apologetic. They shared her message widely, and soon everyone knew the truth. My parents and Tracy tried to defend themselves, claiming they only wanted what was fair, but no one believed them anymore. The fallout was quick. Family members cut them off. Cousins unfollowed them on social media. Aunts stopped inviting them to family events. Even close friends distanced themselves. My dad's image, built on charm, collapsed. My mom, once seen as caring, now faced whispers of neglect. And Tracy, always loud and proud, became an outcast. I didn't celebrate it, but I felt a deep peace knowing that the truth had finally won. Then I got a text from Heather. It was unexpected. She said mutual friends in Memphis told her that Tracy had been bad-mouthing me years ago. "She told everyone you were unstable," Heather wrote. "That you caused all the family drama. I didn't realize how bad it really was." Her words added another layer to everything, confirming that Tracy had been poisoning my reputation long before our final fallout. I thanked Heather for reaching out, feeling both angry and relieved. The truth was finally out, and it was changing everything. Months later, I stood in my Portland home, finally at peace. I had completely cut off contact with my parents and Tracy. Their numbers were blocked. Their emails went straight to spam. I didn't hate them anymore, but I didn't need them either. The heavy weight of their betrayal was gone, replaced by peace and self-respect. I didn't owe them explanations or second chances after what they had done. My focus shifted to my life in Portland. My company was thriving, new features for the app were launching, and my growing team felt like family. I spent evenings meeting local entrepreneurs and forming genuine connections, ones built on honesty, not pain. I joined a mentorship program to help young coders who reminded me of my younger self, full of dreams but lacking support. Every step forward felt like a win, not just for me, but for the person I had worked hard to become. Kenneth became my biggest support, visiting me often from Chattanooga. He would arrive with his warm laugh, bringing stories and advice that kept me steady. "You've built something real," he told me during one visit, his eyes filled with pride. "No one can take that away." His words stayed in my heart, reminding me that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who stand by you when you need them most. We'd sit together over coffee, talking about my company plans or his new adventures, and I felt a kind of belonging I never had with my parents. Through Cheryl, I heard about what had happened back in Memphis. Tracy was now working a low-paying retail job, her circle of friends almost gone. Her lies had finally caught up with her, and the relatives who once admired her were now avoiding her. My mom and dad were struggling with old debts they had hidden for years. They sold their house just to survive and moved into a small apartment, living quietly, their good image destroyed by the truth Cheryl had shared. I didn't wish them harm, but I didn't feel guilty either. Their own choices had brought them there, just like mine had brought me to Portland. Looking back, I learned that self-respect and strength matter more than blood connections. Family isn't defined by who shares your last name, it's the people who respect and support you, not the ones who tear you down. I had spent years trying to earn approval from people who would never give it, but I found my real power by walking away. Kenneth, Cheryl, and the friends I made in Portland were my true family, the ones who saw my worth when others didn't. That lesson changed everything for me: how I led my company, how I chose relationships, and how I lived my life. To everyone listening to my story, thank you for being here. I've shared this not just to tell what happened, but to show that you can rise above betrayal and still build something amazing. What do you think about my journey? Have you faced similar struggles or found strength during hard times? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. Your stories matter, and they might inspire someone else too.